Okay, so this is, I think it's episode 7 of the Hungry Poets podcast.
Woo!
And I'm here with Michael Thompson.
Hey!
And I had him on before interviewing about his book, World the Orb. And this is the second time he's on here. So now we're going to be...
I'm back, baby.
Yeah. We're going to be analyzing 3 poems and then talking about writing and stuff. Mm-hmm. So the first poem is The Reaper and the Flowers by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Second one is Leaves of Grass Deathbed Edition, Song of Myself, number 6. And the last one is It's Important to Be Happy About How Sad You Are by Raul Alvarez, published by Boost House. So we're just going to be reading the entire poem and then we're going to be commentating on it. So I think Mike's going to read the first one. So if you want to start. So this is, you can read the title.
The Reaper and the Flowers by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This is my favorite of the ones that we've read. So, let's begin. There is a reaper, whose name is Death, and, with his sickle keen, he reaps the bearded grain at breath, and the flowers that grow between. Shall I have naught that is fair, saith he? Have naught but the bearded grain? Though the breath of these flowers is sweet to me, I will give them all back again. He gazed at the flowers with tearful eyes, he kissed their drooping leaves. It was for the Lord of Paradise, he bound them in his sheaves. My lord has need for these flowerets gay, the reaper said, and smiled. Dear tokens of the earth are they, where once he was a child. They shall all bloom in fields of light, transplanted by my care, and saints upon their garments white these sacred blossoms wear. And the mother gave, in tears of pain, the flowers she most did love. She knew she'd find them all again in the fields of light above. Oh, not in cruelty, not in wrath, the reaper came that day. 'Twas an angel visited the green earth and took the flowers away.
That seemed pretty packed. So,
yeah.
Like, what'd you take the general meaning of the poem? I guess, like,
it's
about death, I guess.
It's certainly about death. We have there is a reaper whose name is Death who enters. But what I liked about this was lots of times modernly we refer to the Grim Reaper as a sort of this haunting, scary figure, and instead, you can look at the last line here. 'Twas an angel visited the green earth, not in cruelty and not in wrath. So he's sorrowful that he has to take these people to the afterworld. And I think the main theme of it was we have the bearded grain and we have the flowers, and I think the bearded grain is the elderly, and flowers are the children. That he occasionally has to take, and it is weighing heavy on him that he has to take children who haven't had a chance to live as the bearded grain.
Did you actually look that up, or is that just what you take from it?
That's just what I took from it.
That sounded like a legit interpretation, because like when I think of flowers, I think about like the good things in life, or like how it might not necessarily represent people, but also like how once something is over or that's good, you can't get it back again. And then death comes and then everything's gone. So. Yeah,
that's a good one too. I think the what tipped me off, I wasn't suspecting that until I got to the line. It was towards the end where he said, and the mother gave in tears of pain the flowers she most did love. So they have a mother giving away flowers. And I'm assuming that's her children, and
that makes sense actually.
Yeah. And let's see, and also they say these flowerets in 1, 2, 3 the fourth stanza here. These tokens of the earth that they were once he was a child, and to compare, just bringing in where once he was a child, it almost feels like he's referring to the flowers, and here he even says flowerets.
Yeah,
which even has a younger tone as well.
Yeah.
So
for me personally, rhyming is not my thing. But I used to do every poem I used to write when I was in middle school. Everything rhymed. But then I slowly shed that aspect once I read Walt Whitman. But what do you think the effect of the rhyme is here? I think all of his poems rhyme though. But do you think?
In this particular poem, it almost feels like a lullaby, kind of.
Yeah.
Like a sort of it has this sway to it, this cradling.
Yeah.
Melody.
You think death would be something that's really out to get you, but like here it's like something that's kind of like it feels like something that's seductive in a way, not in a sexual way, but like that's trying to take over, like because it's
like
really
a transitional
bad. It's bad, but like it's acting like
like this guy, and he's like, and he gazed at the flowers with tearful eyes. He kissed their drooping leaves. Like he's upset that he has to do his job, in effect. That he has to usher them into the afterlife, because they haven't had a chance to live as the bearded grain have. So it was a beautiful, sad poem, and I liked it very much.
And one line I didn't get was, "Have not but the bearded grain, though the breath of these flowers is sweet to me, I'll give them all back again." Like, what do you think? What do you take from that line? I
took from that, like the bearded grain again is the elderly. Shall I have naught that is fair? Saith he.
Yeah.
So although he's going about his job, and it's displaying the reaper from the actual term reaping, which is he's a gardener, and so he's gathering the bearded grain, which is ready for harvest, quote unquote. But he's also sickling up these young flowers, and he says, shall I have not that is fair, have not but the bearded grain, though the breath of these flowers is sweet to me, I will give them all back again. So he's not wanting to collect the flowers, but he has to, and they're these sweet, innocent creatures, and which he normally doesn't run across in his ghostly travels, right?
Yeah.
Normally he comes across these people who have lived full lives, who are full people, and these are flowerets. These are young
people
souls
who haven't lived their lives,
who are wholly innocent, and to come across that on his duties is, he says that smells sweet to him, but it's not, it's not for him. He doesn't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
And now that I'm talking about it, he says transplanted by his care in paradise, and that's just interesting that maybe he's suggesting that they'll go on to age and live their full lives in heaven.
Yeah, there's a lot here. It's like, not in cruelty, not in wrath, the reaper came that day. 'Twas an angel visited the green earth and took the flowers away. So like, even though the act is cruel, but like he doesn't come in cruelty.
No, yeah, it's
like death seems to be the most cruel thing that there is, because like it's in many ways it's the unknown. Like people don't know what's gonna happen. Like there's religious theories about it, but like no one's really in recent memory come back from death, at least. So like, or at least claim to come back from death. So like, there's no way to really know what's going on. So
yeah,
that's why it's really scary.
We'll move on to the next one.
If you think do you think we've covered this enough?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. I think it's sad, and it has a beautiful rhythm to it as well.
This one also has a different perspective on death.
Yeah, this was interesting.
Because I tried to pick poems
favorite.
that relate to death, so all of them. I'm not sure how it's important how
I noticed as I was analyzing it. Yeah. I'm like, oh.
I'm not sure about the last one though, if it mentions death, but I think that's pretty much the only one that doesn't talk about it.
Oh yeah, that's true. But that one hits a lot of subjects. Anyway. Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So like, with number 6 of Song of Myself by Walt Whitman, I'm just gonna read it. So a child said, "What is the grass?" fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. I guess it must be the flag of my disposition, out of hopeful green stuff woven. Or I guess it is the handkerchief of the Lord, a scented gift in remembrance designedly dropped, bearing the owner's name somehow, some way, in the corners, that we may see and remark and say whose. Or I guess the grass is itself a child, the produced babe of the vegetation. Or I guess it is a uniform hieroglyphic, and it means sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow zones, growing among black folks as among white. Canuck, Tuckahoe, congressman, cuff, I give them the same, I receive them the same. And now it seems to me the beautiful uncut hair of graves. Yeah, I didn't read that right. Okay, tenderly will I use you curling grass. It may be you transpire from the breasts of young men. It may be if I had known them, I would have loved them. It may be you are from old people, or from offspring taken soon out of their mother's laps. And here you are, the mother's laps. The grass is very dark to be from the white heads of old mothers, darker than the colorless beards of old men, dark to come from the under the faint red roofs of mouths. Oh, I perceive after all so many uttering tongues, and I perceive they do not come from the roof of mouths for nothing. I wish I could translate the hints about the dead young men and women, and the hints about old men and mothers, and the offspring taken soon out of their laps. What do you think has become of the young and old men? And what do you think has become of the women? Yeah.
Please
we'll just
silence
ignore
all
that.
cell phones.
Yeah.
People in the audience.
What do you think has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The smallest sprout shows there is really no death. And if there was it led toward to life, and does not wait at the end to arrest it, and cease the moment life appeared. All goes onward and outward, nothing collapses, and to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. So my first take from this was just remembering Whitman's general themes. Like, he's a really grandiose and like a semi-delusional guy, because like he has all these grandiose ideas, and it's like he's almost trying to start his own religion with his book. So like people have described him as a failed religious prophet.
Really?
So like the end of the poem, I think, is really key to this poem about like, first it says, what do you think has become of the young and old men, and what do you think has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The small sprout shows there is really no death, and that's the key line. Because
I have that highlighted.
And to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. So really what he's saying is that we're all connected, because like once someone dies, they go into the ground and like they become like one with the universe in a sense. That's what I took from that. So do you have any thoughts?
I took the same thing, and I want to note like how his tone shifts from in his first line he sounds completely uncertain, and his last line he sounds completely certain about what it all means. Like,
what do you think the meaning of that change in tone was?
Well, it's almost as if he's talking himself through it, and it's like he's
unraveling the riddle while he's writing.
Which I thought was really cool. Like the last line of the first stanza, I do not know what it is any more than he.
And then he finds out at the end.
And then he's like, they are alive and well somewhere. There really is no death. To die is different from what anyone's supposed and lucky. I thought it was brilliant.
It's all these bold statements that no one could ever make.
It's incredible, yeah. And one theme I noted throughout. First off, he's got some great repetition here. And you can track the change in his certainty through the repetition. He says in the first few stanzas, he's like, I guess. There's 4 I guesses. And then he goes to it may be, and then he has dark, and then I perceive, and then finally he's here and he's making the it is, there is. He has his certainty by the end of it. So I thought that was interesting, and I noted there was this interesting, like, sort of equalizing tone. I kept writing the word equalizing because I wasn't sure how else to describe it. Like up here, where he's talking to the child, he ends that section where he says, I guess the grass itself is a child, babe of the vegetation, right? And so he says he's equalizing the child with nature there at the beginning. And then
at the end, he really does it, like,
exactly,
because there's really no death.
Exactly. And he says
we all become leaves of grass in some ways.
That's right. He said, I give them all the same, I receive the same. That's equalizing and unifying. The uncut hair of graves, that's pretty unifying in the sense that everyone's mortal.
The thing is, like, he makes all these bold statements, but he never describes like how to get from one conclusion to the next one. Like, I think what I'm trying to say is that, like, he doesn't really, well, there's nothing really backing it up, but like the fact that he makes these statements anyway, like that there is really no death, like it's really just like he's making a political statement, not really a political statement, but like a statement that's going to upset a lot of people in some ways and shake their foundation of their beliefs, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not an unheard of conclusion. Though he says it in a beautiful way. But to conclude that grass is proof that life goes on in at least one form. Is which is to nourish future life. I think is pretty cool.
Well, I guess like what I'm thinking about is like the souls of people and if they go on or not. But like that's more like an understanding we've developed that really we don't know what it is or like. So I think that's the reason why I don't. Sometimes the conclusion can be seen like it's a really preposterous conclusion, but really it does make sense in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, on the one sense, it has this. He has this sort of stentorian resolve of what everything means by the end of this, but on the other side of the token, it's also very vague as well because they are alive and well somewhere.
Yeah, he doesn't know where.
So it's he's sure about it, but there's still a note of
ambiguity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one.
Any other observations?
No, I think I hit them all.
Okay. I think we're done with that one.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Chose some good ones.
So now this one is available on a YouTube channel, so I guess I'll post the link to this one in the
link in the description.
Yeah. Of the poet reading the poem, but we were going to read it here. So Mike will read the first half, and then I'll read the second half.
All right, it's a long one.
Yeah.
It's important to be happy about how sad you are by Raul Alvarez. I started this poem because last night I couldn't sleep, and for the first time in a few weeks I noticed how beautiful the woman in the picture I keep on my bookshelf is. I don't know who this woman is for sure, but I think we're related because I found the picture in my grandfather's sock drawer a few days after he died, when I was going through all of his things, because I didn't know what else to do, because but what I want to ask you is, have you heard the L trains today? They're still up after all these years. But what I want to ask you is, you know when you think your phone makes a noise, but when you check it, you realize it didn't make a noise, and that instead the noise or the vibration or whatever you thought you heard or saw was just in your head. And probably it is a manifestation of your desire to be connected to people more, which is so beautiful. I love you so much because you are filled with blood, and God made you a scrapbook of all the times you avoided eye contact with somebody on the street asking for a change. They actually made a Facebook album, and it's titled "Everybody Does This All the Time, but the key is to feel bad about it." Just kidding, there is no God, and you can't use that many words in a Facebook album title anyway. You only have 40 characters, and God wouldn't be mean to you because they love you. Let me tell you a story. It's one time a man asked me for change at the LaSalle Blue Line station, and I had $40 in my pocket. So I told the man no, and he paused, and then asked, "Do you have any change?" And I said no, and he paused and asked, "Do you have any change?" And I said, "I do, but that I didn't want to give it to him." And he asked me why I lied to him twice, and I said it was easier than telling him I didn't love him. And he said, "Why did I lie to him?" And I said, "What do you mean?
What do you mean?
And he said, "Raul, I know you love me." And he gave me a kiss on the cheek, and we stood there while 10,000 trains came and went, and I called him father, and he called me a beautiful pile of feelings, and when I think about him, my fingers turn pink. Every night, we all have the same dream, but can't remember it, because I cut a hole in the ground beneath my apartment and dug my way down to where all the bones are and saw they spelled out, "The dream is that we are the same person." So guess what? You're my twin. Isn't that great? But what I want to ask you is, why can't we recognize when someone is breathing "I love you" in our immediate proximity? I don't mean when our mom says it to our dad, or when our dog says it to our garbage can, or That's clever. Or when our hair says it to our comb, but when everyone in a crowd says it quietly inside themselves. Is it because we haven't read the bones right? Hold on. I think my phone is trying to tell me something. Sanity is the first time leaflets curl out of wood.
And this is bolded.
Sanity is the song you can't get out of your head after a particularly incredible makeout session with someone you just met. Sanity is a little bug you are too tired to deal with right now.
Okay, this is the next part of the poem. Oh my God, you are my best friend today. To celebrate making it through another Monday, I made you a necklace that says Youth Culture Forever and a bracelet that says Taco Party at my place. If you want to know why I'm being coy, it's because when my mother tried to kill herself, it didn't work. Because I am one of the lucky ones and she's a great mom. I told her that I was writing this poem and asked if it would be okay to get a statement from her for it. And she said, honey, you can have anything you want because I love you. I know I've said I love you too many times in this poem, but it's okay because it's a rhetorical device. Rhetorical devices are language tricks you can use to tell people you love them. What I'm saying is I owe a lot to people. What I'm saying is that if there is anything worthwhile about growing up religious, it's that you will never stop believing in God and magic no matter what you tell yourself. What I'm saying is saying that your saying things can be a political act or even something else. I have a dear friend who sleeps in my bed when her insides are on fire because my bed is all the oceans and I am Poseidon. I have a dear friend who calls me every night at 3 a.m. to tell me what the moon is doing. I have a dear friend whose eyes are made of very shy birds. I have a dear friend who eats clouds for breakfast. I have a dear friend who wants your teeth to be her teeth. I have a dear friend who lives inside a bus and you can ask for a ride any time and they'll take you wherever you want to go. You need to go because they love driving. I have a dear friend who got the phrase sentimentality rules inside of his lip, and if you have a problem with this poem, you can go talk to him. This is something. You can be friends with someone you just met if the rain holds up. This is something. You can be friends with someone even if you're both comprised of broken pieces. The pieces still work fine, I promise. Oh God, is there anything like the summer? I think so. I think you are when you're still alive because we say your name so often. So much can be erased by not saying. But you're here because we're chatterboxes, sweetheart. Sleep is okay if you're into playing dead, but saying you is better. And that's the end of that one.
All right.
The last one.
That's a big one right there.
Yeah.
The grand finale.
Long.
Yeah. Very different.
Yeah. It's because it's like totally modern, like
very modern, yeah.
And I think in some ways it abuses the English language, just like taking these metaphors that would have no place being metaphors and just slapping them together. Like,
yeah, like I have a dear friend whose eyes are shy birds. I have a dear friend who wants your teeth to be her teeth. That's so weird.
Well, that's possible though. Yeah. I mean, they could want your teeth to be her teeth, but the first one.
I guess that's a clever way of expressing, like, you know, I mean, jealousy or envy or something. Yeah. But the shy birds is interesting. I mean, it does create an image in your head though.
I have a dear friend who eats clouds for breakfast. I have no idea what that means. Yeah.
It's amazing.
But like this poem is, I think it's
bold.
I think the main theme of the poem, like the rest of, if you read the rest of the book. It's a lot about like mental health themes and like how people like don't understand other people when they're having problems, because like the book is about a lot of marginalized people in the other poems. Like it talks about this guy that was schizophrenic and got killed by the police by getting like they didn't understand why he was doing the things he was doing, and he just got like punched in the stomach till his ribs collapsed.
Goodness.
So he was a schizophrenic guy who really wasn't doing anything wrong, but since he was acting strange, the police killed him. So,
oh man.
But that was in a separate poem. But this one is like, I thought this one was the most powerful poem in the book, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this bolded section. Sanity's the first time leaflets cruel out of wood. And then there's other metaphors about sanity, but like I think, what do you think that means? Sanity is the first time leaflets curl out of wood.
First time leaflets curl out of wood. I'm not sure. I mean, he says his phone is trying to tell me something, and then that's the bolded section. After he says his phone is trying to tell him something, we've got three sentences, three stanzas. Sanity is the first time leaflets curl out of wood. Sanity is a song you can't get out of your head after a particularly incredible makeout session with someone you just met. Sanity is a little bug you are too tired to deal with right now. So, the first time leaflets curl out of wood. I guess it could be looking at wood as raw material,
Yeah.
and leaflets is you carving something into it. So it's the first time you understand your purpose, perhaps, is what I get from that.
Yeah. I understand that. It's like I'm struggling with this line. Like, it sounds good, but I have no idea what it means. So
Yeah.
like, it sounds like it has some deep meaning, but like when you think about it, it's like hard to get to it.
It is hard to
Like,
get to it.
It's all this stuff that's mashed together. Like,
He's got these bold metaphors that
Yeah.
are, it forces you
and
to
then sleep
think
is
really
okay
hard.
if you're into playing dead, but saying you is better. It's like the you is the solution there. Like,
choosing to focus on
Yeah.
yourself.
no, choosing to focus maybe on other people. I guess. Like, saying you is better, but you contrast that with sleep.
Yeah, I guess so. Sleep
Because
is-
like I think it's like sleepwalking or something, like sleepwalking through life, but like just living your life as if like nothing matters and like not making any bold decisions and stuff. But like, but you contrast that with saying you is better, I guess. Like focusing on other people, like saying their name.
Yeah.
Like,
looking at the imagery in this poem, I think what's a success here is he's got this stream of consciousness style. He's just like, it's as if he's sitting on a park bench and he's just talking to you.
yeah.
And he's got a lot of things to say, so he keeps going and going.
Yeah, and
There's
a lot-
little punctuation.
yeah, they don't seem to connect to each other in some ways, but they actually do. It's like an
Mhm.
overall theme.
And then in terms of the imagery, like I remember when he was talking about it, he's like, that feeling when you think your phone is buzzing in your pocket and it's not.
Yeah.
And that whole
Yeah,
thing.
I've had that before.
Yeah, everyone is, and I thought that was interesting. And
It's like
the
how
way
he wants to connect with other people.
yeah, when he gets specific, he says when, and he sort of says it in these very relatable terms, and it's like, yeah, I do know when, and then he digs deep into that experience that everyone has had, and says, it seems like that's ourselves subconsciously wanting to be connected to one another.
Yeah, the dream is that we are the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like-
it's all about connectivity, it seems
That's
like.
an extreme version of reincarnation that few people hold, like that everyone has the same soul. Have
Yeah.
you heard that before? I think we talked about that before, like in college, but like, remember when that conversation came
No,
up? Like,
I
Were you there?
We I don't know. I don't
like
remember.
we talked about like how everyone might be the same soul. Like Drew was there, and like never mind, but
I don't remember.
yeah, I guess.
But
like,
we have had a ton of like deep what if conversations. That is pretty deep if we're looking at that at
Yeah.
that literally.
yeah, I think like the main theme, I guess, of these three poems, because death would be the main theme of the other two, but if we compare all three, it would be, I guess, the soul, like,
Yeah.
because like what the soul is and how it like what happens to it at death, and like what happens to it through its life,
Yeah.
and like how we connect to one another.
Yeah, and that's a very
common through
unifying
the-
experience
yeah.
For the human
Yeah,
experience.
especially like in this, when he says, "Let me tell you a story," and then he talks about how the homeless person, what does it say? It just says a man who's begging for money,
Yeah.
and then he said you lied to him, and then they have this deep spiritual experience together.
Yeah.
10,000 trains came and went, and
It's
I
crazy.
called him father.
Called him father.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If everyone's the same person, then everyone's sort of. He says you're my twin. Isn't that cool? There's this
Yeah.
sort of like he's drawing these familial lines with strangers in this poem.
Yeah.
It's just my favorite line in this poem was, "When you grow up religious, you will never stop believing in magic for the rest of your life."
Yeah. Well, that's kind of an atheistic line, but like whatever you take from that.
It's
but-
still beautiful sounding.
Yeah.
Never
like-
stop believing in magic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no matter what way you look at it, it still says like, because like religion is what a lot of people look to for their salvation, not just a spiritual sense, but like to get out of the world or whatever. Because like death is something we can't escape from, so like they look for that, and then like to say it's magic would be like. He also has this line saying, "Just kidding, there's no God."
Yeah, I
You can't
know.
use-"
And that was interesting too, because
Yeah.
it seems so juxtaposing, because he says, first he has this, and I think it's a beautiful line, where he says, "God made you a scrapbook of all the times you avoided eye contact with someone on the street asking for change. They made a face with, and there's something, and just before that, I like the line where he says,
Lots of good lines,
because
yeah.
you are filled with blood.
Yeah.
which is so beautiful. I love you so much because you're filled with blood, and God made you a scrapbook. And it just had a nice rhythm there.
And then he changes his mind.
Then he changes his mind in the very next sentence. Not just kidding. But then
and you can't use that many words in a Facebook.
I know. He's got some clever. When you look at it, it's a very,
because that connects to there's no God, because you think you can do that, but I guess it's impossibility. But like this, I guess this guy's probably an atheist, but this is just him juxtaposing his spirituality, his beliefs on spiritualism onto the poem. So like it's like a sick joke. Like you think you can use that many words to describe it, but you can't. And then it compares it immediately after to just kidding, there's no God.
And then he goes on to themes that are traditionally very spiritual themes, which is like loving your neighbor and we're all treating everyone as you would want to be treated, and being treating someone as if they're your twin or a family member, and these strangers, and treating these strangers as if they're his family. So it's interesting.
And this other line, I have a dear friend who sleeps in my bed when his insides are on fire, because my bed is all the oceans and I am Poseidon.
That's
kind of an epic line.
That is pretty epic.
Yeah.
My bed is all the oceans and I am Poseidon.
It's kind of like a Whitman grandiose statement. Like,
is that speaking about dreams, or is that speaking about?
It could be.
Yeah.
Because it's more like the human consciousness level of like the subconscious.
Yeah, and before and earlier he talked about dreams as well, that we all have the same dream.
Yeah.
And just no one remembers it when they wake up.
Yeah.
And that was pretty powerful as well.
Any other thoughts on this?
I like his repetition. I thought it was this stream of consciousness style, this conversational style, his suddenly changing his mind and drawing crazy conclusions, and this sort of spiritual yet not spiritual. It's a cool poem of juxtaposition and lots of cool different themes. And he just navigates them, sort of, just without fear. He's just shooting through a million different themes, and yet it all feels cohesive at the same time, because they're all these grand themes like connectivity that he whittles down into something as simple as thinking your phone vibrating in your pocket.
Yeah, I didn't think these three poems related so much. Like, but when you think about them, they kind of like the same.
They kind of do.
Theme. Like,
there's unity. There's mortality, being mortal, the human experience.
Yeah.
It was a good set of poems.
Yeah. So I guess, do you think we're done with this?
I think so.
Okay. I think we'll divide this into two files. So I'll just.
All right, we went long. We're gonna go into part 2.
Yeah.
Stick around, ladies and gents.
So now we're going to talk about 3 things, right?
Yeah.
So current projects, and what are the other 2?
Our personal writing strategies and your first.
Yeah, my first book signing.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the current project I'm working on, I've already released the name of the book. It's called Unity, and it's how I'd say the main difference between my previous work, Baptism of Apathy, is I've almost entirely eliminated the religious theme, which would I describe Baptism of Apathy as a misotheistic Catholicism. Do you know what misotheism means?
Never heard miso.
It's
That's cool.
Someone who believes that God is real, but refuses to worship him because he thinks he's evil.
Wow. Okay,
so it's like someone who's a religious person, believes in all the tenets of the faith, but either sides with the devil or refuses to side with God.
Ooh.
Because of they don't like the religion. So even though you have the characters who were like very like close to God or whatever, but like it really shows that at the end, like at the end of the story, it's really like you have like the world ending and stuff, and like does this world really mean anything if it just ends like that? Even though like you have these 2 people who just like who love each other, Natalie and Christian, but like you just have them coming out of it. Is this really a just situation here? Like, but like at the same time, you have on the opposite end, you have this romantic relationship, which is really something beautiful. It's like what do you do in that kind of situation? I guess.
Yeah, and that's an interesting, the love poems in the face of a world that's ending.
Yeah.
It's just a really cool, drives a lot of the emotion of the book. That was one of the coolest components for me.
Yeah.
So your new book,
Unity, and like the main difference is I've stripped all the religious themes out, because that's like a really hit or miss thing. So like it follows this character named Ella, and she has this curse laid upon her. I'm just gonna say a few things. She has a curse laid upon her, and everyone she gets close to dies.
Dun dun dun.
So she's pretty much a homeless person going from city to city, like begging for money and like being alone with herself. And these are her thoughts throughout the entire work. But it doesn't focus only on her. It's like the unity. The meaning of the name Unity is like how different characters can have the same emotions and how there's a unifying force even if they don't believe or feel the same things. So it's like there's a lot of the same energies flowing throughout all the different voices in the book. That's why there's like no transition between the thoughts of like the characters, which you can do that in a poetry book. You wouldn't be able to do that in a short like fiction book. But like I think what I did was I started writing in one Word document. I just wrote whatever came to my mind, and then I took out all the bad parts. I had like several thousand words, and then like took out all the bad parts that I didn't like, and just kept the stuff that I thought was really good. And then I what I did was I speed wrote everything to begin with, and then I left the good parts in, and then I edited it to the point where I had an acceptable product. I'm not sure if I'm at the end of the project yet, but I'm thinking I'm pretty close.
All right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little shorter than.
Yeah, it's shorter.
Yeah.
Because it's more compact, I guess. Because like when you have a long work, the quality goes down. Like, and a lot of the poems in my last book were really like juvenile in nature, because like some of them were even written during middle school. Like I don't know if you noticed that, but like.
No, I didn't notice
like,
it. They were good, man.
Like high school, middle school. There's some grad school poems and even college poems. So it's my entire life pretty much in there.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So yeah.
I mean, the characters, it works in terms of the story because the characters are sort of growing up.
Yeah.
At the same rate that you are. My current book, I'm planning World of the Orb 2, but between that, I wanted to do something shorter to keep me fresh and to just do something different and a little bit more in a different style. So this one, it's World of the Orb was a portal fantasy book. So it took the main characters from Earth and it plunged them into this alternate universe. So the characters were earthly, but the environment was otherworldly. In this instance, the environment is familiar. It's this small town up in Nova Scotia, but there are mystical magic themes sort of creeping in. Maybe not magic, but paranormal for sure. And it's sort of it's the idea of it's urban fantasy, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah.
Because it takes the extraordinary and puts it in the modern, as opposed to World of the Orb, which takes the modern and puts it in the extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do opposite in that sense. Thematically, it deals with sea monsters.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about it. But
this is a sequel to World of the Orb.
No, this is before the sequel to World of the Orb.
What?
This is I'm drafting the sequel to World of the Orb, but I'm writing this is the collection of short stories.
Oh yeah, so it's a totally different universe.
Yeah, totally different.
I thought for some reason I got sidetracked and thought yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. But this is a shorter. This is a collection of about 7, I think it is now, short stories.
So are they really related, or is it just
they're
totally
all related?
different?
They're all related, yeah. So it's sort of like a novelette.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be about a quarter the length of what World of the Orb is. But we've got that. We've got the other difference, I guess, is that it's going to be very dialogue driven. So it'll almost read like a script because there's so much dialogue, which is different because in World of the Orb I wanted a sort of healthy balance between dialogue and imagery, and there was like a big emphasis, I think, on imagery and encountering the environment and the creatures.
I guess
stuff.
it's also different because you divide up the work into different sections, even though they're all related. That really affects
it's seven
the
it's
pacing.
7 big chunks instead of and it's cool, and the environment is feeling very lived in. The characters are feeling very realistic. It's funny. There's a lot of humor and there's a lot of heart in this one as well. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing right now. Hopefully it'll be out in the fall. I tend
Fall
to,
this year, right?
Fall this year,
Yeah.
yeah. I always tend to shoot for fall.
I mean, my
like
book's
the
definitely
fall.
going to be out before 2018, so
Yeah.
I think it's like a first draft now, but like I want to edit more.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain I have an idea of how many pages I want.
We're
so.
both doing shorter books to follow
Yeah.
up our big, volume of
Yeah.
gigantor.
It's probably going to be a better
stuff.
book too, because like when you have a really long work, you have to manage your resources differently. So like with the shorter work,
you're quite an architect when
Yeah.
you're doing this, and with the short book, you can just almost let it.
yeah,
It just sort of comes together, and it's nice to have that the immediacy of satisfaction of getting it out nice and quick.
yeah,
Plus, I've had two of the stories done for a long time. I just sort of rewrote them, and I'm telling everything that happens in between those two stories to tell this nice full arc. And
Yeah.
I really love these characters, and I almost want to make more after this too.
yeah. So like I guess it's a little different, but like there's things that carry over from the World of York, I guess.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the character dynamics and
Yeah.
when there is imagery, it's always important for me to.
I guess your
make it-
skills have improved. I guess like after writing so much, you're bound to get better. So,
Yeah, well, the more you write, I always think of writing as a kinetic experience, a kinetic learning experience that you sort of learn by you learn to write by writing.
yeah,
And the more you write, the better you get, and the more you understand your style, and
yeah.
the more free you are to sort of go on and experiment. So, speaking of writing, do you want to talk about our personal strategies?
Well, I mean,
How do you go about?
I'm a pretty amateur writer. So I mean, like I describe myself that way because like I just with my newest book, I throw out everything that comes to mind and then go from there. Like it's a speed writing exercise, and then you get the ideas that are good, and then you just take out all the bad. So I think that's just all I do. Like that's pretty much all I'd say at this point.
Okay, that's a good strategy.
Like you write as much material as possible, and
Yeah.
just take out everything you don't like.
Yeah, I think there's even a term for that revision strategy. I think they call it just I forget. There was a simple term that I learned about a while ago. Just like you wake up, you write, and even if it's not gonna be in the final draft, you just get it all on the page, and then you go back and you sort of file away. It's like sculpting.
Yeah.
And you make it finer and finer until you have a nice product. I do. For me, I plan and I make a lot of notes, and because no matter the length of the work, there's always a lot of thought that goes into it, and I sort of want to understand the characters' backstories, even if it's not going to be in the book. It affects how I write the book.
Yeah.
And it makes them feel more real to me.
Yeah, because you write more than what you use actually. So like because you have more history than you actually put in the book.
Of course,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
A character's history will affect how they react to any given situation.
Yeah.
Because of their experiences in the past and who they've dealt with, and just who they are as people.
Yeah.
But I always do that. But with this book, it wasn't as like I didn't need encyclopedias of the monsters or encyclopedias of like how the physics worked or the magic worked or all because I'm not building.
Yeah,
a
when I
brand
first
new
heard
world.
about your short storybook, I was under the impression that it wasn't like a fantasy setting. I was under the impression it was like more of a modern setting, but I guess I was wrong.
It is a modern setting.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it takes place in the modern world, but there's
Oh, so it's the opposite of World of York.
it's exactly yeah. It's a modern world.
It's a low fantasy one.
It's a urban fantasy is
Yeah.
what I'm calling it, because it takes place in the urban setting in the modern world.
Yeah.
It takes place in this harbor town up north, and there's this sort of history of unusual activity that starts to creep out and become more and more apparent to at least the main character, and there's this sort of main character that gets what's the word? He gets sort of recruited into this world by this more seasoned character that has lived it all the time, always finding himself in the wrong place at the right time, encountering these things, and it's just really cool. And yeah, so my strategy when I have it on right now, I'm coming down from marketing my other book, and I'm going into writing the new book, and it's sort of about balancing those two things.
Yeah,
it's about still nourishing the old project while going into the new one. That's my current mission, and I have a giant calendar. This is my strategy.
Yeah.
And this is something that I brought with me from my time at college.
Yeah.
I have a giant, obnoxious calendar that I got from Staples. It's a desk calendar.
Yeah.
And I just write all over that all the milestones that I need to meet in order to get it out at the time when I want to get it out, because we're self-published, so we have to be our own bosses and we have to set our own deadlines, and so I have to have these achievable goals that are also that still push me to complete it on time.
Yeah.
So basically, in this book, it's sectioned into stories, and where World of the Orb was sectioned into chapters. So I'm like, all right, by this time I want to have these 2 chapters done. By this time I want to have this chapter done, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And with this book, it's more like, all right, I'm gonna have this part of this story done. I'm gonna have the next part of this story done, or I'm gonna have this whole story done if it's a shorter story, and then just scratching it off. And it's a very satisfying, cathartic feeling to scratch it off.
It's like getting experience points.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
it's like leveling up.
It is like you gained a chapter. So that is what it feels like. Yeah, so I like scratching it off. I like seeing, okay, I'm this far done, and then at the end I just go back and I revise everything, and have people beta read it. Yeah, which is going to be.
So at what point in the review process is the beta reading? Is that towards the actual end, or do they have like a whole nother period after that? They take all the thoughts into consideration and then rework significant portions through that, or do you find that
it depends on how significant you're having your beta readers read it? Yeah. This book will be the first time I'm getting people sort of outside my family circle reading it. And so it's going to be, I'm going to have my editing process first, and I'm going to make it as clean as I possibly can. Then I'm going to have what's called advanced reader copies printed. So you're going to get a bound book as it's going to appear when it's released, but only available to a select few people. Yeah. And then they're going to read it for grammar and continuity and stuff. I may give it to one person for grammar, one person for continuity. Yeah. And then so that way it'll be a good way to direct the revision process. So,
that makes sense.
So it's like, all right, here's my copy for grammar, here's my copy for continuity, here's my copy for story, etc. And I don't know if that's how it's professionally done, but that's how I'm planning to do it.
Well, it's like inventing a new system that people could use later on, I guess. Like, if it works. But,
I mean, I'm sure there are better ways. I'm sure there are
worse ways.
Worse ways, yeah. But this is what's sort of making sense to me, and based on who I have sort of wanting to read it badly before it comes out. And I'm like, all right, maybe you could be a beta reader, and so that's sort of how I'm planning to go about it in terms of beta reading. Yeah. So, you gonna have beta readers for your stuff?
Like in terms of having a physical copy.
Are you gonna keep it in house?
I think in house right now until I can get like more support, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like you grow that up slowly. So like I did one book signing with Baptism of Apathy. That was the only one I ever did. So I don't expect to have the book bought by a lot of people. If you don't promote it much, you're not gonna get a lot out. So
right, yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that book signing. Yeah, which I was there for.
3 people bought the book.
Honor
3 people bought the book and not 0. So, but like, there was this one guy who's really interested but didn't buy the book for whatever reason.
I know it was
But-
oh man, I was sitting there and I was like, wow, he gets it. And he flipped it open, he read one poem, and then he described perfectly like the themes of the book, which is a testament to you as an author, because like the meaning is just oozing off the page, you know? and this guy got it. I was like, oh man. I couldn't believe he left without a book in his hands. Which is
well, he
too
said he
bad.
didn't have money. So.
Didn't have money.
The typical excuse.
Guys, when you go to a bookstore,
bring money.
bring lots of cash. gotta keep the art alive.
So like, I think like I really learned that if you do promote the book, you will get people buying it.
Yeah.
Because, like it's not like you get some results like if you do work. So that's what I pretty much learned from that experience.
Yeah, you gotta be ready to converse. You
and
gotta
convince the people.
Yeah, it's
like an argument.
it's like a pitch. It's like an elevator pitch. It's like you're selling, a TV show, but you got a book, and it's like, here's why you need to. You can't leave without this book, and here's why this book will enrich your life.
Yeah,
is what it very much feels like. And you did a very good job, and it was a nice this sort of mom and pop shop, and everyone who came in ended up stopping at our table.
Yeah,
and
well, not everyone, almost
everyone who saw us that we were able to flag down came, and we had a good conversation with, and they got it. And if they didn't get the book, then they took our information down, and so that was good.
Got some new Facebook likes.
Hey,
so,
that's good, and that's good, because then that's just future advertisement for like the current book and the next book. So
anything else?
I don't know.
I think we're done. Right?
We had 2 really good podcasts here.
So thanks for listening. So
let's see. So when could they expect your book?
Probably before we see 2018 on the calendar.
Before you see 20, before the computer takes over to 20. And I'm gonna say the same thing about my book. I'm gonna aim for the fall. So
if it's 2018 and my book's not out, I didn't do my job. So that's all I want to say.
This is a letter to your future self.
You suck.
Get it together. No, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it out. I'm gonna make sure of it.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
All right. See you guys next time.
So bye.